Johnny.
And we're back.
Yes, Johnny was doing some air drumming back here, so that was a lot of fun.
Is
Welcome.
my hair okay? I might have messed it up.
Not
Lucy.
hair drumming, air drumming.
Oh.
Welcome to the Green Room YXE on June 2nd, 2021. We're coming to you live from Saskatoon, and I'm Leslie.
I'm Johnny.
And welcome to our show episode number 19.
And like we were informed that only really matters to us. Nobody really cares.
I know it's true. Yeah, we got to stop saying that.
Yeah,
Who cares? 19. It's like
maybe we should take a survey.
Yes, maybe. So we're a live show, but you might be watching us on the recorded version. So hi to you guys too. And all of our shows are at No YXE YouTube channel. And that's
Look at that door back there. It's usually closed tight.
It is. It looks like there's like a sunlight room.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that scary room.
It does. Maybe we should close this.
I don't know.
Sometimes it's a scary room.
Yeah, that's just a joke.
Okay.
Okay.
So musical.
Coke 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I hope everybody had a great week. It is hot in Saskatoon. I'm not wearing any pants. Sleeves. John's not wearing any pants. I'm not wearing any sleeves. Yeah, and he's wearing pants. We would not allow that. And it's just a crazy hot couple of days here in Saskatoon. In music news, the 50th annual Juno Awards will be coming on Sunday. Jan Arden will be inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. And performers will be The Hip with Feist, Jan Arden, Justin Bieber, Maestro Fresh West, and more.
Maestro Fresh West. Now, there's a name you haven't heard for a while, eh?
I know.
And Bieber, what's he doing in Canada?
I don't know. It will air nationally at
what was Maestro Fresh? What
8
was his song?
p.m.
Was he that dropped the needle? Was that?
I can't remember.
I feel bad.
Remember. I feel you shouldn't have even said anything. Like, why do you say what song if we didn't have a setup? It wasn't set up to us know. So
well, you take
maybe our guests will remember.
Maybe
we'll have to ask him. So it will air nationally at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. I know we'll be checking that out.
Really?
So researchers and other news elsewhere, researchers held an experimental indoor concert in Spain with no social distancing. And guess what? No one contracted COVID.
Yeah, the downside.
Well, what's the downside? Well, I don't know what the downside is.
Well, everybody had to wear an N95 mask.
The safety protocols put in place for the concert could offer a preview of what live music events might look like for the near future. Yes, and you're right. N95 face masks were required. The only exceptions were at designated areas. There was an outdoor smoking area where only 20 people could gather at a time, and distancing was mandatory, and an indoor bar area where masks could be briefly removed while drinking.
Don't get me wrong. I'm all for masks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not getting you
wrong.
If
I have to go to a concert and wear a mask because it's someone I want to see, I'll wear one. But
oh, yeah, absolutely. But we want to get to the
yeah.
point where we don't have to wear the mask. Yeah. We'll get there. We will get there.
Where someone's like yelling in your ear and their mask isn't scratching your cheek.
That's right. Yeah. That would not be good. In the works for years and delayed by COVID, Beatles fans will finally get a look at Peter Jackson's documentary on the making of the Beatles' Let It Be album, Get Back. It will be out on August 27th. Woohoo! And there's a preview on Rolling Stone you should take a look at.
Yeah, it was out a while ago. They released this footage, and we were talking to Eric Alper about it, right? And the movie, Get Back, which we've seen, it's pretty depressing. It depicts the band at the lowest point. They're like, I'm a Beatle.
What a drag.
Yeah. Right. And then you see the footage and they're all just joking around, having a good time. And it's
so we don't know what the heck. Maybe they were happy and there was, who knows?
I have a bootleg of that recording session, the Glyn Johns mix, before they did it. Anyways, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Also, John Lydon has been snubbed from the production of a Sex Pistols biopic because he's too difficult to work with. Go figure. Lydon said, the most disrespectful.
You can say it.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
I don't think I can.
No, you can. You can say that one.
SH blank blank
You can say
he's
shit.
ever had to endure. Really?
Yeah, you can't say
Who
the
told
other
you
one.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the series is a 6-episode series and is based on the Sex Pistols guitarist Steve Jones' 2018 memoir. Lydon is threatening legal action against producers for his depiction in the series. The producers are happy he isn't involved, saying, as he's got older, he's only got more difficult. So
that's probably true for a lot of people.
It's true. Exactly. So this day in music history, in 1956, Gene Vincent released the single Bebop Balula. Bebop Balula. She's,
okay,
that one.
yeah.
Okay. On Capitol Records. It's a great song.
It is. Can we do this next one?
Okay.
No.
Go.
No, I don't know all that.
1978, Bruce Springsteen's album Darkness on the Edge of Town was released.
Candy's Room, that's a classic.
Oh,
that's
it's so good. It is a great album. Yeah. 1989, the Rolling Stones bass player Bill Wyman, 52, marries 18-year-old Mandy Smith.
Wow, that was like 30.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's like 30 years ago, and it was like, yeah, whatever. Nowadays, I'd be like,
that would be, yeah.
That'd be pretty bad.
Things have definitely
Not that it
changed.
wasn't bad then.
No.
It seemed to be like nobody made a big stink about
everyone
it,
was
right?
just like almost like,
look at
Bill.
him go.
Yeah. Anyways, born on this day in 1944, Marvin Hamlisch in New York City. He wrote Chorus Line, The Way We Were, and The Sting, like a genius.
I bet our guest might know some of those, how to play some of those songs.
Oh my gosh, I wonder
if he knows any Hamlisch, if he's a Hamlisch fan.
I know the Sting one. I know the Sting. I can't play very well anymore.
It doesn't go.
Nothing
it doesn't
like
go like
our
that.
next guest.
It goes like, anyways, it's also Frankie Venom's birthday today.
That's right.
Teenage Head singer who passed away.
Yeah.
And I believe yesterday was Marilyn Monroe's birthday. Am I correct on that? Or
that I should know.
Yeah,
I don't know why I don't, but
okay. What's your favorite Marilyn Monroe movie, by the way?
Play Some Like It Hot. Like, I know she was amazing, The Misfits, but that was kind of a bit of a down kind of film.
Some Like It Hot was good. 7 Year Itch was good.
7 Year Itch was awesome.
And remember when we were in Niagara Falls and we stayed in that hotel and the counter person said, "You're in the room right next to where Marilyn Monroe stayed."
That's right.
And I was like, wow.
That was
put our hand on the door.
Can you feel anything?
Probably wasn't even the same door. But anyways.
All right. So we're very excited to bring out our next guest. So excited. He grew up taking piano lessons in small town Saskatchewan, and in pre-pandemic times was performing over 100 shows per year across Canada, Europe, and Latin America. His songwriting has drawn critical comparisons to the likes of Harry Chapin. Sorry. I always say that. Chris Christopherson and Billy Joel, and has seen his songs used in film, TV, and theatrical productions. And in 2019, won a Western Canadian Music Award. And in 2020, he was awarded Roots Folk Artist of the Year at the Saskatchewan Music Awards. Please welcome, and so much more. We can't wait to talk. So much more.
Like that was just look at his bio, and it's like, oh my God,
tiny little bit.
We don't. He should be a guest.
Listed. His list should be a guest. We just would be listing everything. Anyway, please welcome to the Green Room YXE, Jeffery Straker. Woo!
Hello.
Oh,
hey.
Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm well. It's so nice to rekindle our few year ago Telemiracle relationship. This is great.
I know.
Right. I actually I found a picture of you and me in the hallway there, and I was going to upload it, but I didn't. But
I didn't get a picture with you.
I got
a picture with Jill. Yeah. I got a picture of it.
Well, you found the more photogenic photo opportunity. But as you know, the funny thing about Telemiracle, of course, is like we're all running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to make this show happen. And then we don't really have time to even though you guys were there and I was there, we hardly really had a chance to get to know each other because it's so busy. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, especially for you, being one of the ongoing long-lasting cast members, you were pretty much involved in everything. You'd be running by us in the hallway, and then there's other times where we'd be running by you in the hallway. So
you were running way more than us. Let me just say that. We were standing still a lot.
Oh wow, whatever. It was all. It's all for a great cause. It's all for a great cause. But here we are. So like no more running. We can sit and bask in the glory of our webcams now.
That's right. Reach out
in the green room. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, so where are you right now? Are you in Regina or are you in Toronto?
I am in YXR, exactly. Okay. Well, sorry, YQR, in my living room in Regina here, by my old Heinzmann upright piano.
Awesome.
And so I'm just 2 hours and 15 or so minutes down the road from you guys, not so far away.
Yeah,
that's right.
By the way, there's a picture of you on your website or somewhere on the internet playing that very piano. So it's nice to see it in the actual.
It
actual
is
here tonight.
awesome.
Is that where you write? Is that where you do a lot of your writing?
Yeah, in fact, it is. And this piano has a bit of a funny story. I mean, it was given to me as a gift by a fan 5 years ago, and I was looking for a piano because I didn't have an acoustic piano in this house. I only had a digital one, which was like sacrilege. Anyway, so I needed and I was looking, right, and then so the word kind of got out, like put his tentacles out, and then this lady just emerged and said, "Hey, I got a Heinzmann upright. I think you're looking for one." And I was like, "I am." And I went and played it. Okay. But the problem was by that point I was a bit disheartened because several people had sort of offered up these pianos and I'd go play them. And if you don't look after a piano, it's kind of like, it's like not looking after a car or not looking after a child. Like they just go to pot. So I was like, okay, this might be another terrible piano, but it was in mint condition. She'd had it in a humidified house for 40 years and built in 1910 in Toronto and came out to Saskatchewan on the train, they say. And so it's 111 years old and it's the same age as my house. So it's kind of fun.
No kidding.
Awesome. I bet it sounds great too.
Yeah.
It's a great piano. Yeah. I mean, I'm not set up to play it, but it is a lovely instrument. Yeah. And Heinzmann have a very great tone.
That's also a great fan too, to give you a piano for a gift.
It's so lovely. Now, she knew I wanted one and she gave it to me. Now, at the same time, people sadly, and I think you two as musicians have probably heard these types of stories, but like pianos specifically, upright pianos these days are mostly ending up in the dump, and it's really sad. And if you drive down if you drive down many a back road in Saskatchewan, you'll see an upright piano in the ditch because people didn't want to pay for the cost to take it to the dump because it's very heavy and there's a big dump cost. And now we've gone beyond upright pianos, and people are now trying to give away grants, and people won't take them. Yes, it's crazy. Wow. And the number, I could go on and on about this, but the number of students taking music lessons is diminishing, and what's happened to this generation?
No kidding.
Everybody wants to be a DJ.
You know what? If someone wanted to give me a grand piano, we have no space for it. I don't know. We would fit it in here somewhere.
Yeah.
In front of the couch or something.
Sleep under it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Serve dinner on it. Yeah, exactly.
Here's a question, because Leslie plays the piano too. She's a conservatory person as well.
Oh, you are? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't really keep it up though.
Not like you, sir, but she did get her. She didn't get her license to teach or whatever.
I got up to grade 9 conservatory.
Grade 9's great. That's really that's a high level.
Yeah,
I got a question for you, Tina. This is something that just occurred to me. Like, how often do you change piano strings?
Oh, well, not very often is your answer. It's so hard to change. I mean, you change them when they break, basically. You don't change them until they break. Now, there's different metals that make up the strings as you go down the piano. And then when you get to the bass notes, it's a steel string wrapped in copper. And those ones will tend to go like it's hard to explain. I don't know what they do physically, but they start to get a muffly sound, and those ones have to get sometimes replaced. Right. But over time, I don't know the environmental condition that they have to be in, but they can get quite brittle. And there was a piano in our old farmhouse, which was very dry because it wasn't a very airtight house. There was a time when I was taking high-level conservatory lessons, and I was snapping strings every week. It was, because you're banging the something out of that piano.
Yeah. Well, so I was going to ask you if you've ever broken a string. Have you broken a string live when you're playing?
Yeah, I've broken strings on. I didn't break them. They happened to break. Because these grand pianos in theaters are generally well maintained. But one broke years ago on on one of the grand pianos in the May Wilson Theater in Moose Jaw during a CBC radio taping. It was a nightmare because I just realized, I can't play that key anymore. So then you're not like in the moment, you're trying to play around the key.
Right? Yeah.
No,
that'd be hard to do.
Yeah. What about your piano playing when you were a child?
Well, we had a piano, and we actually ended up giving it away. We had a house in we had a piano in the house. But the funny thing that I wanted to I've told this story before, and it's like my older brother and older sister, we lived in a town called Mescanaw, which is near Melfort, Kinistino area.
Oh, I have a bunch of relatives from there.
Yeah, and from Mescanaw or Melfort?
Yeah, Mescanaw.
No,
the
we'll have to talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Yeah.
Jeez. Anyways, you just blew my mind. But anyways, my brother and sister took piano lessons. There was a piano teacher there, but we didn't have a piano, so they had paper with the keys, with the black and white, and they had to practice on the table.
No.
So unfortunately, my brother quit, but my older sister, stuck with it. Anyways, but
wait a second. How long did you have to play the paper piano? How long did this go on for?
Well, I never played the paper piano. But they tell this story. They tell this story about taking lessons on a piece of paper, and it's like trying to practice.
I can't imagine why they didn't stick with it.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so you started at a very early age then, I guess, playing piano. Was that sort of the...
Well, I started when I was 6. And so I was, some parents start their kids when they're like 4. 4 is this sort of magical age that a lot of people try to start their kids at. Mom decided, for whatever reason, and my mom's the piano player in our family. She wanted my brother and then myself and my sister to for sure have a kick at that can, because she wanted us to see, at least have the opportunity. And we all tried. My brother kind of lasted till grade 3 and then just didn't like it. So he didn't continue on. My sister didn't continue on very far, but she went like a little bit further than my brother. And then I was this weirdo kid who really liked to practice. So, I really wanted to impress Mrs. Young, my first piano teacher. Really, I think that's what I wanted to do. So I would, learn these songs and go back and just want to play them for her, see, I learned this one. And so as a result, I progressed through the grades, but yeah, I really liked it from the get-go. It was, I think it's perfectly normal. A lot of people tell me that's perfectly strange. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, that's just that's your passion. That's just your connection, right?
Yeah. You and Leslie, on that, your parents kind of made you take piano?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like later.
How long have we known each other?
What? Anyway, 13 or 14, I did not want to practice anymore. But when I was same type of thing, I think I was around 4 or 5. Yeah, I just wanted to have a piano. Yeah, and I wanted to learn. So,
isn't that amazing? It's so amazing. And then where did you grow up again, Leslie?
In Toronto. And my dad's a musician, so that was what he did for his living. He's like a legendary trumpet player, jazz trumpet player.
High Note Al, playing the Boss Brass. Was it Paul Anka's band for 4 years? But
just Paul Anka, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
He played with Quincy Jones and all kinds of people. He was amazing.
There's so many names dropping. I'm hearing these songs rattling on the floor.
we're kind of getting around to the one here. Is that in the CBC studio that you played the Glenn Gould piano on?
Yes.
Yeah.
He would see Glenn Gould all the time. He never played with him, but he would see him all the time at the CBC with his hat and his gloves in the middle of summer.
Really?
Yes.
So his hands were always cold. It was so funny. He always thought his hands were cold. I mean, maybe they were, but he said they were. he thought his hands were cold.
Right.
But where I was going with that was, so you grew up in Toronto, and there were obviously a lot of music teachers. So you were very fortunate. I grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan of 300 people, and thank God we had a local music teacher, Mrs. Young, and she was a very good piano teacher and a very good singing teacher, although I didn't take singing. But her thing was, she was so musical, If a kid wanted to learn, literally the euphonium, she would learn to play the euphonium and teach the kid. Like if a kid wanted to learn the trombone, and as a result, the town had a band for a while, because she was so determined to offer a musical education in a community where the school system didn't have a budget for a music teacher. So this was all privately, and she was like $5 a lesson or something. Like, she enabled so much musical education. It's mind-numbing, really.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
People
that
like
is so
that.
awesome.
People like that, they got to be raised up and elevated in some way.
They do need
recognition
to.
for something.
Yeah.
That's not me.
You don't need to be raised up.
I have a hard enough learning myself, let alone teaching someone else.
I tried to teach when I was in like my senior years of high school, and I did a little bit, but I could never teach now. Oh no.
Right.
No,
right.
No.
So we also read that when you were growing up, your parents listened to a lot of country music.
Yes.
And yet you're taking classical.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie said the other
talking about you, yeah.
And she said those are like polar opposites.
They're almost polar opposite, aren't they? Country and classical.
I said, how do you mean?
Yeah.
And she goes, well, classical's more polished and refined, and
country's more earthy,
and down, like,
yeah, folksy.
Yeah.
So, and listening to your music, there are times when I hear. Now, there are times when I hear Willie Nelson in the way you sing. Sometimes some of your phrasing, and even like Waylon. So were those the kind of people that your parents listened to?
Those were look at you go. Those were exactly the kind. So they were big Willie fans, big Waylon fans, and then there was all the other, like the stuff like the Dolly Parton stuff and the Kenny Rogers stuff, and then the Roy Acuff stuff and the Hank Snow stuff, and there was this guy named Hoyt Axton. They loved this guy named Hoyt Axton, and they were like, so it was all these. They were all like, those were like storytelling country singers. Like, this was when I don't know a lot about country music, but I mean, but that old stuff, I still listen to it all the time. And it was kind of an extension of folk, really, because they were really about stories, George Jones and Tammy Wynette and these people. So I really liked it. But you are right, the sort of the polar opposite side of this sort of bipolar musical existence was this classical piano training. But I mean, what I guess you can sort of boil it all down to, though, I think, is that what I loved about those storytelling country songs is that I really felt something when I heard them. Like, I could feel something from those stories. And the thing about classical piano was, without words, your job was to make the listener feel something. And it's really hard because it's all about phrasing and dynamics and, flexing your tempos. And it's hard to make someone feel something with only sound, but that was your job. So it was sonic storytelling in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's true. Without the words. And I think that's something that my dad always taught me too, is tension and release.
Tension and release. Yes.
Yeah. It's so huge. Yeah.
Tension and release.
It's true. That's
I know you're not really like a big country music singer, but your new record has a little bit more of a roots appeal to it in that sense. And I noticed that, like, listening to your music, that's what I kind of like. I thought, well, he's going in more kind of in a roots storytelling direction, which is different from your first record. What I thought was a little more cabaret, a little more flamboyant, and you're using the piano, you're jumping in the air on the cover and stuff like that.
All that stuff.
And it was a lot of fun, and to see you develop over the time, like there's your second album.
Straightforward.
I'm mistaken. That was your second album, because your first album is largely unavailable.
That's right. Look at you doing your very detailed homework here. But you're right. Yeah.
So your third album, Souls of My Shoes,
yes.
was sort of more pop, I thought. Like a pop record.
And the funny thing about that one is that was the one I made in Nashville. So I made it with a guy in Nashville, and it was a bit more sort of poppy. I mean, I think that Step Right Up one, you said, it was quite cabaret pop, and then the Souls of the Shoes one was just kind of more like, it was more sort of like songwriter pop, I think. It was sort of less kind of that some of the cabaret fell out of it. And a lot of the stuff, as you guys know, is a result of the producer you choose to work with, because you hand over, you write your songs and your precious little creations, then you're like, vulnerably, you hand them over to someone and say, okay, make them into something, and then they're like, here we go. So, so as a result, each of these sonic stamps you're hearing, and you guys know this, but some of our viewers, listeners won't, that person who you bring in as the producer, they play such a huge role in how these songs are going to sound, because you can have the same chord progressions and lyrics that could be a pop song, a rock song, a country song, a folk song, an opera song, whatever, but the producer is really important.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we noticed that as well, that you have worked with a lot of different producers. And is that sort of like you just throwing yourself out there and going, I want to try this, I'm going to try that, or do you feel
learning
like
from different things?
And I don't mean this in a negative way, but do you feel like you maybe are waiting to find that sound that you're going to go, this is it, I'm going to use this producer for the next 5 albums or something like that?
No, it's funny. It's probably a little bit more the first one. I don't think I've been looking for a sound. Maybe I was when I was really not sure of myself, when I was first starting, I'd be like, oh, what do I sound like? Everyone goes through that. And it's part of the artistic process is kind of understanding your voice, and your voice is partly, or at least for me, my experience was my voice was first kind of finding out what kind of language am I, what kind of language do I use when I speak my songs, right? But then also my voice was what kind of sonic delivery do I want to present to my listeners? And I've been really comfortable with knowing I wanted to sort of gradually change that over time. So maybe when I was first starting out, I was like, oh, what's the sound I should go for, But then what I realized over time is it's almost like the sound has sort of evolved as I've kind of grown up, and I think it's changed as a result of what I've listened to, because I think our outputs are basically a sum of our inputs, in a way. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've been sort of looking for a sound, but I have consciously changed producers as my musical tastes have kind of and preferences and leanings have changed over time too. I've kind of sort of changed who I worked with, and I've really enjoyed them all. And the guy who produced this last record, wait a second. Here it is.
Yeah.
Just before sunrise. Russell Broom in Calgary produced 8 of the songs, and the majority of the record. And I really enjoyed it. He's a full-on guitar guy. I'm a piano guy. And for this one, I was like, what would it be like if I really worked with someone who really is a guitar focused brain? I mean, he's a musical ninja, but he's a really guitar oriented person. So the challenge there was okay, what happens if we, do this, So each producer has a different objective, maybe.
Right.
And have you been always, just the process of working with someone, have you always been trusting if they do want to go in this different direction, that you're kind of I'm not sure.
How malleable are you, or do you?
Yeah, because it can sometimes be with producers.
Like Jim Rondinelli told us, right? You go through that battle. He said it's a battle of making a record together. You spend every day with someone for over a month, and then the record is a battle, and then you're gone. And it's
well, I didn't leave caution completely to the wind. I was choosing producers based on where I had an inkling of where they kind of generally play sonically, So I don't think I've never had a battle about our record, but there have been battles about songs. It's because you're making a record, but there's in this case there's 10 songs on this record, and so overall it's I would like to make a folk roots sounding record. Okay, well, here we go. But then within that, as I wrote each song, I kind of heard it a certain way, for better or for worse, I did. And then if he heard it a bit of a different way, and this only happened really maybe once with Russell, and then once with Royal, who did the other 2 songs. I was like, oh, that's not how I was hearing it. Then you kind of butt heads a little bit. But I think the headbutting, if it can be done right, is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you get this watered down pablum that turns into nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. And you worked with Danny Michel too, right?
Yeah, that was for a 2012 record called Vagabond, and that was such a great experience too, because he was a totally different. He had a totally different approach, which I just loved too, because no one I'd worked with before, and frankly since, approached it that way. And he had this big home studio in his place out near in Ontario, near St. Jacobs, out there in a small town, and he, and we'd lay like he's a great guitar player and bass player too, and he actually played the drums too, and I played all the keys. But then when it came to like layering stuff in, his approach wasn't like, okay, first we'll do the keys and the drums and the bass, like, and he literally had this big trunk full of hand percussion, and he'd take something and he'd be like, I wonder what this will sound like. He'd tune up a mic and start banging it, and it was just like, it was like this mad alchemist sort of, but it was like this frenzied sort of approach, and I just loved it because I'd never done anything like that, and I really like how the record turned out. Yeah,
that's cool. Like we always would say, like, oh wait, leave that. Like something would happen, and it'd be like, what happened? I don't know, right? And it was like, that's just a happy,
just leave it that way.
A happy accident. That was great. It just worked out that way. And we did one of our records. We had a guy named Randy Cook play drums with us on.
Oh yeah, he played on my Step Right Up record.
Awesome. He's an amazing drummer.
Oh, and he's so good.
He's one of those guys that could play the most complicated polyrhythms and be making scrambled eggs at the same time.
Oh yeah. And you're not even exaggerating. I know.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, but he shows up and it's like he brings out all these drums, and he's got brings out this drum. This one's got a broken snare head. I thought it might sound kind of neat. And we're like, what kind of kook brings a broken drum to a recording session? And it did. It sounded amateur. I know. It sounded awesome. It sounded so good. Yeah. So you just never know, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We have a sponsor on the show here. We're gonna do a quick read through, and we're gonna come back because it's 7:32. We have Jeffrey's time until 8. So let's get this.
Yes, we're gonna do. We're just gonna do a shout out to our sponsor real quick, and then we're gonna come back and talk more to Jeffrey. We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, go do your thing. I'll be here.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. Giving a shout out to Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. Field Fox Gardens and Cookery is a food preparation and delivery service in Saskatoon. They are 100% gluten-free and organic, and only use quality ingredients found close to home. Field Fox has just launched beef lasagna in 2 sizes. They are proud to partner with Saskatchewan beef producers in this carefully prepared classic meal that is delivered frozen for your convenience. In the coming days and weeks, the menu will grow to include more choices of frozen prepared meals to suit every lifestyle. Their products are soon to be featured at Saskmade Marketplace, which only sells the best local goods. So please visit fieldfox.ca to order your lasagna and sign up for the newsletter to be notified as the menu expands. So order that lasagna and just take a night off cooking and have something really good.
And sign the email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, subscribe.
That's how businesses really rely on that now. I bought a pair of shoes this afternoon, and they like almost held a gun to my head to give them my email address.
Oh, really?
Seriously.
Nice.
It was a gun store. No.
Oh boy.
Stick around. The jokes just get better.
So we're back.
We're back. And we're back.
Look at that.
One thing I find interesting is this is our 19th show, and we've had like Jordan Pollard, Shantea, Brock.
You thinking all Saskatchewan artists,
most
or
of the Saskatchewan,
JJ?
Most of the Saskatchewan artists come from farms.
I know, it's true.
And then they have a, like people who live in cities have musical dreams, but that I find it like you got to actually leave the farm, your family farm. I don't know how, if there was the story of that, is there pressure to stay and work on the farm and be on the farm, or were you like I'm out of here, I'm going to I'm going to go do my journey and be a musician? Or because
you went to university, right? That's the other thing. Like, how was that?
Well, it's funny that the pressure to stay on the farm didn't exist from my dad to my brother or myself. And I think if either of us would have had the pressure to farm, it would have been to my older brother, because that's sort of how that works. For people who don't know Saskatchewan farms, it's typically the older brother who would be pressured into being the farmer. But I think dad realized that I probably would have been a terrible farmer, and my brother had just no interest in it either. So, it wasn't in the cards. So there was no real pressure. Like our parents were pretty good that way in sort of letting us kind of, it's like, what do you want to do? Go try that. I went off, I did 1 year after when I was in grade 10, 11, and 12 in school, I was driving into Regina from the farm once a week to study with a professor at the University of Regina, because I was doing a pretty high level of piano then. And then in my first year after school, I just did a year of full-time studies at the conservatory, literally just studying piano and playing the piano 7 days a week. And I basically made me crazy. And so I after a year of that, I did my licentiate diploma with Trinity College in London, and then I was done. And I had this very important realization that I didn't want to be a classical pianist. So why would I study more classical piano? But then I went off to the U of S in Saskatoon and studied science. And I did a BSc. And my third year of that degree was actually done in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. But my degree is from the U of S. And so I got a science degree, and there was never farming in the cards. But the thing is, when I finished classical piano, like I was kind of like, and scene, and off I went to go do science. I kicked it to the curb. I was like, well, so much for that. I'll be a hobby pianist at best, and that's fine. And I never thought I would really, honestly, go back to it. And then I got my first job. Actually, my first job, I hated it. It was in a lab, and then I quit that. Then my second job was in Toronto in doing marketing, which had nothing to do with science. This story is really weird. Anyway, I was doing marketing in Toronto, so I moved to Toronto, and I discovered something, because this is a while ago now. There was a vibrant singer-songwriter scene that I had never found before. I'd never even pondered the existence of this. And there were all these amateur, relatively amateur musicians going to open mic nights, or, starting pseudo-professional careers, having these 45-minute gigs, playing for tips or whatever. But these people you'd never heard of singing songs they'd written. And I was like, this is a thing. This is a thing. Like, there's these people. You don't need to be Celine Dion to sing songs. Like, you can be this person who nobody knows in this bar, and it's really good. And it was just this. It's like I discovered how to make crack in my bathtub. It was like, what is this? And so like I really dove headfirst into it, and I was playing the fiddle at the time and sort of farting around with the fiddle and the piano and singing, and that's kind of how I got into it. So I needed my path to take me to Toronto to discover this, but then wind my way back. It was just a weird path.
That is so all through your college life and previous study, you never had a band, you never formed a band or played with other people?
I shouldn't say like when I was in university in Ireland, that's when I learned to play the fiddle, or I started learning to play the fiddle. So I picked up the fiddle there, and then I brought it back to Saskatoon, and I was playing a bit of fiddle, and I was kind of playing in like a bit of a folky trio. Like we had a fiddle and a guitar and a bass, and there was no singing or words. It was just like sawing out terribly, fiddle songs. But I mean, that was really it.
Yeah. Well, that's funny, because I moved from Saskatoon to Toronto to pursue a career in music, and that's where I met Leslie.
Oh.
And it's there's something about that, the Queen West scene, and there were other little pockets of music, and it was full of originality, and like
yes,
you said, and bands that are just playing their own songs. And that's you wouldn't find like cover bands on Queen West or downtown.
No.
That'd be for your original acts that maybe can put together a 45-minute set, that whether it be like 3 bands on that night or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'd get to see bands starting, and then someone would take off, and someone would be in other bands. And I knew him when he was in that band, and now they're in this band. And
yes.
It was just the best. It was just the best time. And now I fear that scenes like that don't really exist anymore. Is that in my head? Like, there used to be a scene in different, for Halifax.
You read my mind.
Montreal had a scene for a while. Toronto seemed to perpetually always kind of have a scene, but it seems to be like now with the internet and people not having to go to the big centers to make music and even be recognized for it, they can do it from the comfort of wherever they are.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like when you were saying that, I was like, that Toronto scene has, I mean, there's a sliver of it there, but it's almost like the dodo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of sad.
It is very sad.
It's totally sad, you know. It's and I mean, you know, I mean and it's kind of the result of many things, but I mean, frankly, a lot of musicians can't afford to live in Toronto anymore on musicians' incomes. Rents are preposterous, and venues can't make their rent or mortgage payments based on covers to have a band. Like all these places that were these venues, now they're like Hero Burger and you know, Smokey's Poutineery, like McDonald's and Starbucks. Like, you know, it's like they're the only things that. So Toronto is at a big crossroads, and we can all point our fingers and sneer at it from out here, but it's going to happen here soon enough too. And the crossroads is that everything that used to make Toronto amazing, I would hazard to say, because I keep a toe in the water there, I keep a place there, I go there a fair bit, it's almost all gone. Toronto is not cool anymore. It just is not. And people from Toronto will tell you, yes, it is. And I will say, no, it's not. Like, it just isn't. And we're lucky in Regina, Saskatoon, that we've still got decent scenes, but we better be careful because the harbinger's right down there in the east. It's not pretty.
Yeah, it's true. Because I agree with you. I think that there is a scene. I don't know the Regina scene, but in Saskatoon, there's just a ton of artists here, you know, so it's still happening here.
So let's hope everybody makes it through, and their venues, you know, venues are key. I mean, you know, as much as you know, I hate playing at that place. I'm not going to say where, but you know, that place, it's so crappy. You know, the dressing room stinks and the beer's warm and the people are rude. But God bless them for being there in the first place, right? So you can't take these things for granted. So
no,
when we come back, everybody should get out and go have a couple of beers and see a band.
Go to a show. Go to a show. Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Right. It's funny that you said Hero Burger. I just got to point this out. It's a little side story here, because when Leslie was pregnant with our son, maybe I'm telling too much. Anyway, she had
wait a second here.
She had recently given up on vegetarianism, you know, just to make sure she got the proper nutrients for the growing baby inside her. And Hero Burger had just started in Toronto, and
that was the big thing.
And I think I just had my first cell phone, a little flip phone, right? And this phone would start buzzing, and I'd go, take it out, open it up. Hello, are you near a Hero Burger?
The pregnant lady.
So
I love it.
So now I noticed that you're very independent. Your music releases are all independent. You did one with MDM, with MDM Records, and then it's all independent. Now, I can't, you know, hopefully your fans are watching, and maybe some new people are watching and learning about Jeffery Straker. But as an independent artist, you've done so much. You've been all over the world, you know. We can't even start to talk about that Latin America thing. Like that just boggles my mind.
Yeah, I know.
But it's very strange.
But so, did you ever try to play the major label record game? Did you at one point when you were starting out, were you like, you know, I want to get a record deal and be signed and, you know, all that? Or were you always sort of single-minded and like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way, I'm going to do it myself? And how did that happen? Did you find a team? Did you, you know, what was your lucky break? What was your aha moment where you said, this is where we're going, this is how I'm doing it?
Probably I did everything exactly wrong. Like, you know, but I mean, thank God there's no handbook for the music industry. And every time I run into someone who says, yeah, I'll tell you how this music industry works, I run the other way because no one knows. So my first little, when I sort of quit my job in Toronto and made my first record, it was called Songs from Highway 15. And it was this songs about people and places in Saskatchewan that I knew. And that's the one. And I was like, well, where do I want to go try to sing these songs? And I was like, well, Saskatchewan's probably the obvious place. So I came back to Saskatchewan, and I would say, my phrase is that I would sing for the opening of an envelope. Like I'd sing anywhere I possibly could, just so people would hear me. And so I'd sing and I'd try to find places to sing. And I was singing basically for nobody. And I gave myself a year. I was like, I'll give myself a year, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of time, but I didn't know. And I was like, I'll give myself a year. No. And if this can't be an income in a year, this probably isn't going to work, which is a foolish proposition, but I didn't know any better. So I gave myself a year, but darn it, within a year, it was working. On a very small scale. I mean, let's be honest. I was eating canned tuna and like, doing all these things to make it work, but I really wanted it to work. And then I went and made my next record, Step Right Up, with his producer in Toronto who kind of found me. And then we made the rest of it in Los Angeles. And that's when Randy played on it, blah, blah, blah. And then this manager came along and he was like, I'm going to get you signed with a record label. This is record label material. And honestly, he just turned out to be like a jerk. And it was kind of my first taste of, and I hope he's watching. Like it was my first taste of sort of tiptoeing into the land. Like, oh, this guy like says that he's a manager and he manages some pretty good people. And he talked about a label, but then it just didn't work. And like he was not a good person. And I was like, well, if that's what the music industry is, I want nothing to do with it. And I'm like, I just love making music. I like writing songs. I like performing for people. That's what fills my cup. I could see it turning into a viable living. I was like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing and making records. And then like that, there was a song off that record, Step Right Up, this song called Hypnotized, that like with this guy in Toronto with $1,000, we shot this music video in the back alley behind Massey Hall. And I literally sent in the tape to Much Music. And then like 2 weeks later, it was in the top 10 across Canada. Like this stuff doesn't even happen anymore. Like it's like, you can't do that. There isn't even much music. Like, it's like, what is it? And then because this video played, like, I earned a fair bit of royalties. I was like, okay, there's some income. But then I got a call from an agent. He's like, I want to rep you. And I was like, okay, what does an agent do? I have no idea, but this sounds good. Like the whole thing was so haphazard. And so then I had an agent. And then MDM came along as a kind of like more like a distributor label partner, right? So so that's kind of been my model, is where I'm going with this, is like there's me, the musician guy, writing the songs and doing the shows. I've got an agent who's been wonderful. I've been with Paquin forever. They've been wonderful to me, and a distributor to get it out there. And then as needed, I have a marketer and a publicist. And in the way I've done this has been my full-time living now for 16 years. And I've never needed a label. And now I'm positive I will never want one. Yeah. Like it just, for what I do as a folk roots kind of whatever I am musician, it's not really necessary, And I mean, there's this kid on CBC radio this morning. He's from Regina. He's a YouTube superstar. His name is Brian Mendoza. I mean, he's got bajillions of followers around the world, and he just sings songs in his basement. Like you don't need a record label. Like it's right. So but before this current era of realizing you don't need one, and there aren't many left. I mean, I think I kind of realized that's not where I should be. And you guys know, being you've done this for a long time. Like music's a funny thing. Like being an art form, people really they won't tell you. Like they tell you things in roundabout ways. Like you have to have your wits about you. Like you learn where you fit in subtle ways. People will tell you where you fit, but people don't often tell you where you don't fit. You have to sort of understand it, and you have and it's not nasty and horrible, but you have to get a thick skin and be ready for some people to say no, because for every one yes you get, my rule of thumb is you're going to get 9 no's to get that one yes. Yeah. And that's part of the deal. And then you gradually figure out where you should land. And this sort of situation I've landed in, which you described as being quite independent, is very true. It just kind of feels right for me, It's
well, it's working. It's working for you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's working for you. When you get into the industry side of things, sometimes you need your bullshit detector on high. And that's not always. Yeah. That's not always pleasant. I just want to go back a bit. So canned tuna. What's that? I mean, I've only ever had found tuna.
Canned tuna.
Where'd you get that tuna? I found it. That's the kind of tuna I would eat, not canned tuna.
Right? Yeah. No. Yeah. Canned tuna. And probably some of it was cat food. I don't even know.
Right. Yeah. So when you're in Toronto, we were talking about the club scene and how it used to be so vibrant. I noticed you've got a little bit of love from the Toronto Star, which when we lived there and played around, if you got a good review in the Toronto Star, mention in the Globe, maybe something in the Sun, you were set to be the.
You could pack a club.
You could pack a club. And be a Toronto darlings, and that you could use that as a springboard, or you would sink. right? But
Yeah.
but you've a couple of times you've had some nice words from him on your music.
It was the first time it happened was with the record that Danny Michel produced for me, the record called Vagabond in 2012. And that I didn't even know the record got reviewed. And then people started sending me the links to it. And I was like, what is this? And I mean, the guy said some pretty lofty things. I was sure he was drunk because I was like, did I make this record? Because he said some pretty great things. And I mean, but exactly like you just said, because the review is so glowing, I got bookings and I got then, other magazines and papers in Toronto called to have me on their cover. Like it was exactly that. Like you get this review from the Toronto Star and it's a big deal. Now, I don't even think they review records anymore, to be honest with you, like because entertainment departments at these publications have been obliterated because no one's buying ads.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really significant point. And sort of to link that back to the thing you mentioned before about like, was there a break? There was never like a big break per se, for me anyway, but there were a lot of mini ones. I call them kind of mini breaks. And that Toronto Star review was a mini break.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Right. So
I've never heard that. That's great.
You never have?
No, that's fantastic.
Oh, hey. Look at me. So I know your new record just came out. Hold it up again. You got it right there. Hold it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's on your.
We've got it here too.
Oh, you got it here too. We got it here. There he is with it.
Yeah, there's light on
and
it.
And that's available on your website and
it is
probably in stores. I noticed that your cost on the website was $20 for that record.
$20 for vinyl and CDs as well, and I send them out in envelopes with a piano keyboard stamped on them.
Oh, nice. I love it.
20.
Nice.
How many did
touch.
you press? 100 million?
No, I pressed. What did I press? I think I pressed 1,000 of them. But here's the thing: the reason I only charged. I mean, it's like $15 for a CD and $20 for a vinyl. Now, of course, vinyl should be more. But the problem I run into with these with vinyl by mail is the postage cost is prohibitive. So to make the total manageable, I keep the price of the vinyl a little lower, just with the idea that I just want to get it into somebody's hands, because related to that, like, I mean, as a touring musician and really primarily I'm a tourer, the majority of my musician incomes comes from the live show. I sort of see the CDs and the vinyl as a thing where I just sort of, it's like a audio calling card or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, with the resurgence of vinyl, I know me and my son and myself are right into it. So it's nice to see you making records. Now you've turned your show into like 100 dates a year, basically. Pre-pandemic, you were doing about 100 shows a year, it says, and that's a pretty hectic schedule. That's one show every 3.6 days.
Right? Yeah. Look at that mathematical mind. My God, who is this interview with Einstein? I can't figure it out.
Yeah, but so did it just gradually build to that, or was it all of a sudden you're like you had these reviews? Like, how did that happen? Because I think that would be every working musician's goal.
Yes, to be
100 is a nice round number.
Absolutely.
That'd be
fantastic.
Optimal. You could have some, make some money, have some time off.
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing, right? Because that's it. To me, it was a gradual thing to kind of get it there, and I kind of like once I get it to, it's kind of got to this 120 shows a year thing. I really don't want any more. Like I read some people's bios and they're like, I do 200 shows a year, and I'm like, I would collapse. Like, not for me. But it's exactly what you just said. Like with 120, you're busy enough, you're earning an income, you're doing your thing, but you have that time to recharge. And I know, like, I can't go on the road for 100 dates in the row. That is not my jam. I can do 5 to 7, but then I got to come back and recharge and wash my underwear and do those things. And then go again, or do a lot of one-offs or two-offs, that kind of thing.
Right. That's pretty, that's like, this is a guy here, you should write not a tell-all, but
a manual.
A manual.
You wouldn't want to tell all, let me tell you.
A manual. A manual on how to be a successful independent artist.
No kidding.
And it's not just, I think a lot of, it's youth to begin with. It's the, but I want to be a star. I want to be a star now. And, you know,
It's true,
you gotta,
right?
you got to work, and you got to work hard, and it's a work ethic, and people don't realize that being a musician is it's a skilled trade. And then not only that, you have to be creative, and, you know, get people to, you know, you can go install some plumbing. I'm not knocking the trades, and then you do your job and you get paid, you know. But you got to go to your job, and you got to make people happy, and then you got to get paid.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's a life career. It is a career.
So so Jeff here's got this down. Like, you know,
yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Well, one like you said things that I just had. So I like this stuff. I love talking about this stuff because it's talking with musicians about this stuff. I find so like I don't get to do this often, so I'm loving this.
Right.
But so this summer I'm doing what I can do, which is small size, pandemic restriction friendly backyard and small park shows, right? So, but like I've got this. The pandemic was a bit of a gift to me, and it helped me discover. Sort of like really understand this fan base. I hate using that word, but whatever we'll call these group of listeners are that listen to me, right? But I mean, between June 12th and September 12th, I've got 45 of these backyard shows between the Okanagan and London, Ontario. And
wow.
You know, with the majority are slanted to Saskatchewan just to mitigate the risk that, you know, cases go up and I can only stay here, you know. But I mean, but like in this 3-month period, I've got 45 of these backyard shows, and I'm so grateful because I haven't done this in you know 15 months, and I'm dying inside. Like there's a part of me that needs to do this, so it's going to be great. But I also haven't really had a chance to like actually earn an income. Like never mind the emotional recharge, but like Jeffrey needs some money. musicians need income.
Jeffrey needs a new pair of shoes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's so true. Awesome. That's so true. We get together and we get to talk to people like you in this, and at the event like Telemiracle, you get to talk to people, and it's like you get to learn. And for us doing this, it's like you get to learn so much more about somebody rather than, you know, you meet someone at a show and you chat and you have a good talk and stuff like that. And I may not know what you've done, but I meet you face to face and think you're, you know, a great guy or a great gal. And
you also don't delve into catalogs of artists too, even with friends of ours. You don't.
Wait a second, what's he done to make him so famous?
Oh, let me Google it. Yeah.
No,
I mean, I remember meeting. I didn't know who you guys were. You didn't know who I was, and we run into each other. And I remember after I went home, I Googled you, and I sort of figured out a bit about you. And I remembered I was like, oh, I gotta, you know, when I see these guys again, we gotta talk about this more. And then we just really haven't. Like we're all busy people. It's a crazy world.
And that's the thing. You never get to see your musician friends because everybody's always working. Right? So
exactly.
Like a vagabond, right?
Yeah. Like a vagabond.
Anyway, sir, I understand that you have a curfew at 8:00 here.
I do have a bit of a curfew.
But it's been awesome. We just thank you so much.
Time just flew here tonight, and we could do this again.
So awesome. We could do this again.
Maybe we'll check in at the end of summer before after your 3-month summer concert tour and see what comes up for the fall. Yeah, let's do it again.
I love that. Because honestly, we could talk for 5 hours, although people stop listening. But we could just keep talking.
We could. You know what? They can watch it on repeat, and they can pause and they can pick it up. So you know,
true. That's very true. Yeah.
We could be their daily fix, the Jeffery Straker fix.
They'd be like, right here. These three just stop already.
Didn't they talk about that last year?
But thank you guys for having me on here. I really appreciate it. This is lovely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super. And say hello to your sister Jill, and you keep on. Good luck with the new record. Break a leg.
Thank you. I mean, yes, I'm like kind of my tour to perform this thing is now these backyard shows. I just did these online shows, like a sort of a national tour of online shows. There were 6 of them, and I partnered with different venues across the country. It was just kind of an experiment to be like, okay, if I want to do these online shows to release a record, like how do you do this? If I don't want to do just another Facebook Live or something, right? Like I want to try to make it different because I do a lot of Facebook Lives, right? So I partnered with venues. It was a pretty good experience, but I mean, even though people gather around these online shows and you know they're there because you can see the numbers or see the boxes on Zoom or whatever. As the musician, and I'm curious if you guys think this, like to me, playing music yeah, you're playing an instrument and emitting a song. But to me, half, if not more, of that experience is receiving the energy back from the crowd, and or even the small crowd. It doesn't matter. But through a phone, like that doesn't happen, and it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I totally agree.
There's something to be said for humans.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
That's one positive thing about a room full of humans.
That's right. Exactly.
I think we should leave it on that note. There's something to be said about humans. Johnny Sinclair.
Right.
Okay. I better fly. This has been a joy. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, same for us. Thanks for coming on, bud.
Thanks so much, Jeffrey.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Wow,
that was awesome.
Oh, so the time just flew.
That. Yeah, it did. It flew.
I mean, he's right. We could have kept talking for probably a lot longer.
Yes, we could have. So we're going to wrap up here now. Thank you so much, Jeffery Straker, for coming on the Green Room YXE. It was just so fantastic speaking with you. We had some comments here.
Dave Marcoux, oh God, I will be a mess. That was at 7:05, so we must have been talking about the Beatles because Dave's the biggest Beatle fan I think I know.
Exactly.
So that must be what that was. Marianne Sellinger, enjoy watching this and learning more about you. Yes. It was good for us to learn more about Jeffrey because, like we said, you meet people and you don't really know their backstory.
No,
and
you don't do the research,
and you don't take time.
That'd be kind of creepy. Actually,
that would be, like I'm going to meet this guy.
and then I'm going to research everything about him, and
or while you're talking to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not. Yeah. Anyways, we have Jennifer Hackett. Really enjoyed Jeffrey's 2019 Christmas concert at the Basement in Saskatoon.
Oh,
I bet
nice.
that would have been good.
That would have been awesome. Yeah, no kidding.
And
Peggy, great stories and such energy. Hey, Peggy.
Hey, Warren.
Hey, Warren.
Thanks, Jeffrey, Leslie, and Johnny. Another great show. You said it, I didn't. And awesome to learn more about Jeffrey's career. It was awesome to learn more about Jeffrey's career.
All right. We also want to thank the sponsor, Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. Order that lasagna at fieldfox.ca. And please subscribe and follow No YXE on YouTube and Facebook. And really, I'm going to promote a couple of other No YXE shows. Be sure to tune into YXE Sports Podcast Mondays at 6. Let's Chat Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Sportsline Thursday at noon. Sportsline Thursday at noon.
With Linda Walker.
Oh, it's 12:15. I always get that one wrong. I have to change that on my little notes. 12:15 with Linda Walker. And In Focus YXE Thursday at 7 p.m. And Slow TV YXE for your chill Sunday at 10 a.m. And if you're an artist and you have something coming up, be sure to email us at thegreenroomYXE@noYXE.com. So I hope you guys have a great week. Stay cool.
Next week, we have Steve Eggers.
Steve Eggers next
from
week.
a band out of Oakville, Ontario called The Nines.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun conversation.
That's going to be fun.
So have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Saskatoon time.
And I could have a mouthful of marbles.
Oh, Johnny's getting some tooth surgery. So yeah, that might be interesting. That'll be good TV.
Hey, what's the best time? What's the best time to go to a dentist?
You say it. I already know the answer.
Tooth hurty.
Tooth hurty. Ha.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Keep rocking and rolling.